Good evening, Black people and all allies fighting for Black liberation, Black prosperity, and Black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. Speaking today from the cradle of the civil rights movement, the president and vice president delivered back-to-back speeches urging lawmakers to pass key pieces of voting rights legislation. In the most significant step President Biden has taken towards protecting the bedrock of our democracy, he announced his full support for getting rid of the Senate filibuster to pass voting rights.
I believe that the threat to our democracy is so grave that we must find a way to pass these voting rights bills. Debate them, vote, let the majority prevail. And if that bare minimum is blocked, we have no option but to change the Senate rules, including getting rid of the filibuster for this.
During his speech at the Atlanta University Senate Consortium, Biden also conceded his own quiet conversations with members of Congress and promised he will no longer yield or flinch when it comes to passing voting rights.
I've been having these quiet conversations with the members of Congress for the last 2 months. I'm tired of being quiet.
Biden and Harris were joined by members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia and several civil rights leaders. But a coalition of voting rights advocates who were instrumental in delivering Democrats a victory in Georgia were not there. Black Voters Matter, the New Georgia Project, the Asian American Advocacy Fund, as well as former president of the Georgia NAACP, boycotted the event, saying yesterday they wanted concrete action on voting rights, not another speech by the president. The co-founder of Black Voters Matter spoke with reporters earlier today. Stacey Abrams, too, did not attend the speeches, but her office said her absence was due to a scheduling conflict. She instead gave her support for the event in a statement on Twitter. Members of the King family did attend, but said it was a difficult decision, given their frustration over inaction on voting rights. It is all but certain that there would be no Democratic majority in the House and possibly no Biden presidency had it not been for the activists in places like Georgia who worked tirelessly to deliver crucial votes. Now these activists are tired of waiting for the Biden-Harris administration to make good on their promises and protect the rights of those same voters who helped put them in office. Does Biden's pledge in the 11th hour make the difference for the activists? They cannot afford to lose. Joining me now to discuss two voting rights activists who boycotted the president's speech in Atlanta, Wanda Mosley, National Field Director for Black Voters Matter, and Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Cliff, I'm going to go to you. What went into your decision not to attend this speech by the president and vice president?
Hey, good evening, Charles. Yeah, I mean, mainly, as we said in our statement, we didn't want it to be a photo op. We weren't sure or weren't confident that the speech was going to have anything more substantive than the July speech that he gave talking about voting rights. And so, we just really felt, and on top of that, many members of our coalition are quite busy. Literally some of our members are out in Lincoln County and in other counties, Lincoln counties, where they're trying to close 6 out of 7 polling places right now. And our organization has been active in organizing around that, doing petition signatures. So there were a lot of reasons, but the heart of it was really that we really disagreed with the president's strategy. Would have rather that he actually be in D.C. giving this speech. He could have gave this speech directly
Right.
to the Democratic caucus, and then they would have had the luxury of then being able to get motivated and excited and all are ready to get rid of the filibuster. They could have actually gone out and voted on some stuff. They couldn't do that today because some of them were in Georgia. So there were several reasons involved. But at the end of the day, we just wanted to be sure that we'd have something that would be substantive and about action and not just a photo op.
Right, but now that they've given the speeches, did anything in either one of the speeches surprise you or encourage you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, let's start with the positive, as I do with the students that I teach sometimes. he did what we have been asking him to do for months. Many of our organizations, Wanda and I, have both been arrested outside of the White House during the summer and fall months while we were protesting and asking that the president get more involved and do a clear statement about the filibuster, that he get involved in helping to end it. He didn't do that over the past 6-7 months, but he did come out and give a clear statement today, a statement that he had not given up until this point. That's progress, right? And so we want to start there. Did he go quite as far as that we would have liked? Did he have a full plan? Did he give us any idea of like what his next steps might be? That he might be calling in Manchin and Sinema to the White House, or heck, that they might even go away to Camp David where they can work out, what the kinks could be on filibuster reform? Or did he announce that he's going to be going to the Senate, to the Democratic caucus, and giving another speech where he talks directly to those senators to try to get them motivated to go out there? There are several next steps that he could have laid out. We didn't really get a sense of that. We got a sense for what he's calling for. We didn't really get a sense of what his engagement is going to be, but we'll see over the next 24 to 48 hours what those actions will be that'll follow up on the speech.
So, Wanda, earlier tonight, a state court in North Carolina refused to strike down the redistricting maps Democrats say are heavily gerrymandered and dilute the voting power of people of color. The map will likely go to the state Supreme Court next. This is an example of a scenario that the Freedom to Vote Act would prevent in the first place. Do you think that Biden's speech and Kamala Harris's speech captured the urgency of this particular moment? Or are they giving a plan, or are they just giving themselves cover?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is my first time being on the show, so I'm excited about that. Look, the speech uh, sounded like the moment is urgent, but for me, actions speak louder than words. It was a great speech. It evoked a lot of emotion. It touched on some history. We heard names like George Wallace and Bull Connor. He named several Republican senators, sitting senators, who also voted for the Voting Rights Act back in 2006. So we had some history lessons in there. And that's great. But again, we wanted to see more action. We know that when he was pushing the Build Back Better bill, he had a whole tour across the country. There were all kinds of press opportunities, all kind of information, education that came out of that. And we've seen none of that for voting rights. We've gotten some good speeches. We've gotten some, attaboys and attagirls and great job, Georgia, but we have not seen anything concrete that would give me any real hope at this moment that the federal government is going to do what needs to be done. But I will tell you what does give me hope in this moment is the resilience of Black voters, especially those Black voters in Georgia who are sadly used to. Sadly, it is normalized that we stand in line 6, 8, 9 hours to exercise our right as American citizens. So it's unfortunate that we are in this moment. It was a good speech, and we just hope that it can be backed up with actions and an actual plan.
So, Cliff, Warner brings up a very interesting point because he kept bringing up these allusions to Bull Connor and Jeff Clark, and even people in part of the Civil War. But it struck me as that is not the parallel, right? So we want to go to the people who were violently trying to maintain status quo. The people who actually erected Jim Crow, the people who rewrote the Constitution, we actually don't know their names. We can say history is going to record you and everybody's going to know your name. They actually don't. People don't know the people who were over the Constitutional Convention in Mississippi, which was the first one to actually install these voter suppression methods. Before that, Mississippi had more Black men who were registered to vote than white men. We don't know their names. This is a thing that is done on a local level. And it just takes a big, bold action by the government to stop them from doing it. What do you think about this idea of kind of invocation of the violent racist as the parallel rather than the methodical tacticians of the South who realized the best way to get around this was to call constitutional conventions and to rewrite the law and to write Black people out of power? And they did it quietly in rooms It had nothing to do with water hoses or German shepherds.
Yeah, I mean that's really been a big part of the evolution of racism, right? It's how do you achieve the same ends as the Nathan Bedford Forrest and the Jefferson Davises and all the others of Reconstruction era and post Reconstruction era. How do you get the same results without going to that level of violence and being so obvious that you're really being inhuman, right? And so the lesson of racism is that we can actually achieve the same things without the violence, without the bloodshed. We can come up with things like voter ID and photo ID. We can come up with things like the gerrymandering or just getting rid of drop boxes. We can use things like the filibuster, which coincidentally has been used ever since the 1870s. But we can use all these different mechanisms to achieve the same results without the blood, and therefore without so much of a sense of evil. Mitch McConnell does as much damage without having any kind of bloodshed as any of those folks did from the Jim Crow era.
Right.
And so that's really the challenge, and that's what the president just really doesn't fully recognize, right? He really doesn't fully recognize that we're in a different kind of an era, and that it's not just as simple as going back to like the days before
Right.
Trump. That this is just an entirely different situation that he hasn't quite been ready for.
Right. Wanda, last question to you. The vice president talked today about this being a decisive moment in history. I want you to take a listen to what she said and react to it on the other side.
The Senate must act. And the bottom line is this. Years from now, our children and our grandchildren, they will ask us about this moment. They will look back on this time, and they will ask us not about how we felt. They will ask us, what did we do? We cannot tell them that we let a Senate rule stand in the way of our most fundamental freedom.
Wanda, what do you make of that?
Yeah, again, nice words. I think it's interesting that she is challenging the Senate to act when we've not seen the White House act. Candidate Biden pledged to, quote, fight like hell, end quote, for voting rights. I have yet to see him do that. We have seen him pour a lot of energy and effort to other things on his agenda, and those things are great. They were needed, but we have not seen the same amount of energy and effort with voting rights. The moment in history that I want to talk about is what happened on
Okay.
January 5th, 2021, when Black
Right.
voters delivered the Senate during a pandemic, risked our lives, organized like our lives depended on it, because they did. And
Right.
let me also just say,
Right.
this wasn't just for Black voters. Everybody benefited from what we did. And so power was given to the Democratic Party, and for whatever reason, they are afraid or
Right.
unwilling to use it. And they need only look back a few years to see what Republicans did when they had power. They were not afraid to use it. They moved their agenda
What-
and all the things that were important to them.
Wanda, I'm gonna
And I
have to
wanna
break it because they're telling me I have to go because I have to go to break. But I didn't want to break in because I don't want you guys to ever boycott my show like you boycotted the speech today. But anyway, thank you guys both for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you being on the show.